Welcome back to Getting Serious. Today we're going to be talking about the second book of the Dragonriders of Pern series, Dragonquest. Now let's get into that plot, and spoilers ahead. 7 years after the events of the first novel, the older Wereleaders are stuck in their ways of 400 years ago, and they're not giving the craft masters or the hold masters the respect that they really deserve. This is extremely exemplified by whenever Fëanor has to intervene between one of the older dragon riders harassing a craft master about a knife, which wasn't for the rider, it was a wedding gift. This results in Fëanor getting stabbed. Like, right in the shoulder, stabbed. And of course, being stabbed by a fellow dragon rider, that puts a major strain on everything. Meanwhile, the Threadfalls have started to fall out of sync out of the timetables that Falar drew up. So now the old-timers are also beginning to question Falar's "Can you really lead if you're wrong?" While discussing these matters with Lytal, the current Holdmaster of Rathahold, Jackson, the young boy king, just discovers ancient passageways that nobody has used in a long time, and in these secret passageways there are, of course, secret rooms. In these secret rooms, the ancients hid away some of their old tools, like telescopes, microscopes. So Fandral, the master smith, is able to reverse engineer the telescope and is then able to demonstrate it, this causing more friction. During this demonstration, Fandral also unveils essentially a telegraph machine that he's been building and the wires that would connect these. Then, while they were on the southern continent, they found fire lizards, which turns out to be a distant relative of the dragons they ride, because the fire lizards, they're able to also telepathically communicate between the dragons, and then fire lizards also breathe fire and fly around, and they're also able to jump in between, like the dragons. Meanwhile, during an irregular fall on the southern continent, Falar notices that the threads aren't actually damaging the ground below them. So he investigates and he believes it's the grubs. He then does some actually scientific method experiments with them, with control groups and multiple different kinds of soil and plants, and it does turn out that these grubs have been eating the thread, and they can essentially keep the ground clear without the use of dragons.
What could this mean for our hero?
Elsewhere, a romance is blooming between Breck and Fëanor, Breck being a young werewoman that's rivaling Kilara of the last novel. Then there's a wedding where everybody gets caught up on what's been going on, and everybody's like, "Ooh, look at all the nice fire lizards. Ooh, look at these. Look at those." But during this wedding, Robinton, the master harper, slowly begins to realize he can hear dragons too, and he's not a rider. What's up with that? Kilara, being the antagonist for this book, is able to push Falar and Turan, the old weremaster, into fighting over who gets to say what the dragon riders do. And of course, Falar being one of the protagonists, he wins with some injuries, but he still wins and banishes all of the old timers that agree with Turan to the southern continent. But just as Breck is about to take off on her mating flight, Kilara comes in, and so their dragons fight, and they die in the in-between, which breaks both of them, and Kilara is eventually shipped off somewhere unknown. You don't actually know where she ends up. But Breck ends up becoming catatonic and not speaking to anyone for a while. But then at the next impressing, Breck is broken out of her state and is able to accept the fact that Wyrith is gone, but she has the fire lizards to cope for that. But the more interesting thing that happens at this impressing is that Jackson has to help break the dragon out of the egg that he had unintentionally impressed earlier, and thus is born a white dragon. Now, it's not really a white dragon, it's like a rainbow color that it just kind of appears white. At least that's how it's described in the book. This happening stirs up lots of conversation because what's going to happen with Jackson? Is he going to become a dragon rider, or is he going to become the whole master of Ratha like he was originally destined to do? Who knows? You'll have to read the next book to find out. Another thing that's discussed is going directly to the Red Star, since now, after observing it for essentially a month now, they get an idea of what the surface is like. Fëanor attempts this, but he finds out it to be more like Venus. It has lots of atmospheric gases that are unbreathable to humans and dragons, and so Fëanor and his dragon have to instantly transport back to Pern and then have to rest up till the next novel happens. So now let's discuss this novel. So, I'm going to come out out with it. This is not one of the good ones, especially compared to the first book. Like I said in the first review, there's grayscale, but apparently that only applies to the men in this world, because there's Lessa, who's clearly the good person, and so is Breck. Those that do have names are mostly good, but then there's Kilara, who's shown to be totally vain and selfish and have all these flaws and nothing good going for her. And of course she does get her comeuppance, but it feels so shallow that the main characters get a good three-dimensional scope to them, while the female characters don't. Then to continue with the ideas proposed in the first novel, which I kind of feel is going to be reoccurring, is old versus new, which is not a bad concept. It's been done before, but it kind of leads in from that last point, is that it leads you to which way is the right way for this world to work. Like, yes, I happen to agree with the protagonist, but they never have a wrong moment. Or if they do, it's very rare and is then quickly brushed aside. What gives with that? Something in favor for this novel, we do see the consequences of the actions of the last novel. Like, we get to see the consequences of Lessa bringing the old-timers forward and how they're reacting to it. And we get to see the consequences of Jackson touching the egg. It expands the cast on who's being focused on, but it also loses perspective because of that. So you don't get that good internal monologue that I felt was there in the first novel. You also don't get to really feel the characters, get to feel that emotion that the characters were kind of having. Another thing in favor for it is that it expands this world that it's set up in the first novel, which sometimes you do need to take a whole story to do. That's not a bad idea. It's just it sacrificed character development for world building, which is unfortunate. Then we gotta talk about the rape scene. Yeah, there's a rape scene in here, but unfortunately it's passed off as romantic. It happens between Fëanor and Breck, and it's almost, and like I said, it plays it romantically, like he pushes himself onto her and she's all, no, but yes. But unfortunately, you don't get to hear the yes part. You just hear her giving up the resistance and letting it happen. And to me, that's rape. That's not romance. That's rape. Bad book. No rape scenes. No rape scenes instead of romance scenes. Bad. So, then to bring it back to a lighter mood, Lessa is pushed to the background, which is unfortunate because I thought there was real potential with this character, but she's just now plot convenience. She just happens to have the right idea at the right moment and then goes off. Then the plot moves on without her. Maybe she was a Trojan horse, but that sucks because there was great potential with this character. But an interesting concept it presents is cycles in society and then the cycles in nature and how they collide and what that result is. Like, there's the cycles of old versus new and replacing each other, and then there's the cycle natures of not only the thread, but then the irregularity of the thread of nature being unpredictable, and that type of cycle. Oh man! Oh man! The spelling errors in this. The spelling errors. There are multiple. And this got past the author, the editor, the publisher, and then a second editor, because what I'm reading is a bound collection of the first 3 novels, and it still got past them. They did not fix it. What the crap? How? I realized it was typewriters, but how? How did you make that many errors? Come on. You're better than this. But on final note, it does present that not every idea is good. That there are some failures, like the idea of Fëanor going straight to the Red Star and that failing, which is interesting, but it doesn't do it anywhere else, so it feels like a pitfall. So, for this story, I'm feeling a 4 out of 10, if I have to give it a score. So, let's see where the next novel takes us, but I want to hear your thoughts. Have you read this story? Have you read this series? Do you like this story? Did you agree with me? Did you disagree with me? Want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. So, I will see you next time.